Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a product review of some coloured pencils I found on Amazon. It was the Prime Day sale this week where Prime customers, and I'll put a link below where you can get a free trial with Amazon Prime. Prime customers get some really good discounts and deals, like I got the entire Game of Thrones book series as a gift for someone for £22, and those books are normally £10 each, so it would be £70 to buy ordinarily. Just to kind of make it up for packaging and shipment purposes, I noticed a pack of coloured pencils, a pack of 72. I think they were reduced to £12 from something like 20, so I thought they're not that bad. I'll give them a go because I don't use coloured pencil really. I have a few professional coloured pencils I use for the odd thing, but I don't really have any for kind of colouring books and that sort of thing. I have 12 coloured pencils I use with adult colouring books. So I wanted more, and I thought these looked reasonable. The reviews were not terrible. There was some bad, some good, some in between. And they are made by or distributed by Niutop, which are a Chinese company that sell anything and everything. They sell electricals, and they have some terrible reviews on Amazon for some of their products. Now, the thing that I found a bit confusing with these, I mean, these are clearly cheap pencils. These are not artist grade at all, but I thought I'd review them because, you know, sometimes something cheap is not necessarily terrible. They come in a craft paper tube, as a pack of 72, and they are environmentally friendly and non-toxic, and I've got all these sort of safety stuff, don't contain rainforest wood, things I would generally look for in a product. And I've played with two so far just to kind of see what they were like, and you know, they weren't bad. I wasn't unimpressed with them. The thing that's kind of thrown me and I'm still trying to get to the bottom of is they're actually pencils made by a line called Marco Raffiné, which is made by a separate Chinese company. So I don't know whether they're made by one company and distributed by another. Not sure. Haven't really got to the bottom of it. When you open them, there's a really useful piece of foam that stops the nibs from breaking, which has a really cheap, terrible pencil sharpener that I wouldn't even insult my basic pencils I use to write notes by the telephone with. That is going in the bin, or probably just never going to get used because it looks absolutely awful. And that foam has done a pretty good job. None of the nibs are broken in transit, so I'm really pleased with that. Wrapped around them is this colour chart of questionable quality. It is really cheaply laser printed, I think, on shiny awful paper. I tried swatching out one of the colours next to its real one, but the paper is so bad that you can't even colour on it, so it's not a very useful colour chart in that sense, but you know, it's better than nothing. So what you get is a set of 72 like that, and I'll just pull a few out to look at them and I'll tell you how I'm going to actually review them. Now, I'm not going to test all of them, I'm only going to test a few. So this is number 512, which is supposed to be carmine, or cremine as they've spelt it because they've missed the A out. And you can see they're made by this line, Marco Raffiné. You know, they're made to look like quite a high quality pencil in terms of the way they're kind of decorated and so on, but the price and the reviews tell me that they are not the world's best quality. Another one, 559 here, is red brown. So there you go. And the set of 72 colours are actually a reasonable variety. There's not sort of too many of any one area. Now, I like to paint botanicals. I like to colour. Where I do colouring, I mostly colour botanicals, just as that's mostly what I paint. And it's got a good range of reds and purples and a lot of greens and browns, not too many blues. And they are recognisable colour names like cerulean blue and Prussian blue and ultramarine, cobalt blue. So these are obviously hues, they're not going to be real pigments, but they should give us a reasonable approximation of the kind of thing we're used to. So how am I going to test them? I could just get a page out of my colouring book and try that, but I thought, no, I'll do something a little bit different because I can, basically. I've got here a pad of 8.3 by 11.7 inch or European A4 paper, and it is by Dana and Rowney. It is a fine grain drawing paper, and I like this paper. It's really nice, actually. They do different drawing papers. They have another one, fine grain heavyweight paper, which is also drawing paper, but it's just much heavier. and this one is £120, the heavyweight one, and they recommend that for use with pencil, with paints, with pen and ink, and with I guess that icon is meant to be kind of pastels. I said pastels. Lindsay the Frugal Crafter is probably laughing her head off at that. Pastels, not pastels. I'm not bloody American. Whereas this thinner one, the not heavyweight one, is only £75, and it's only really recommended for pencil and pen and ink. But it's an acid-free paper. It's a 100% recycled paper, and there's all sorts of energy claims on it, so it's a good for the environment kind of paper. And at the end of the day, I am a fading old hippie, so that's a good thing. So what I thought I'd do is sacrifice a sheet of this beautiful paper, and I'm going to stamp an image and then colour it in, because that's a bit more fun than using colouring book, and who knows, I might get an image I can use for something kind of later. I've got a stamp here which is made by Personal Impressions, that really well-known company, and it's of some roses, and I've never used this as a whole stamp before. I've only ever stamped like bits of it onto cards and then embossing powdered and watercoloured in like the rose, but never the whole image. So I've taped over the sentiment roses because I don't want that, and I don't know what inks are actually compatible with Gamsol and blending solutions, so I figured Archival won't be, because Archival is a kind of oil solvent based ink. So I'm going to give it a go with Memento and see how that goes. I guess VersaFine might actually be more suitable, but I don't know. So I'm going to try Memento, see how it works, and maybe I'll do another video where I try and find a Gamsol compatible ink. So I'm going to stamp that, and then I'll come back once I've done it. Okay, I'm back. I've had a few lighting issues. I'm just trying to get things exactly as I want them. I've stamped it using a Memento dye-based ink. It's Dandelion, which is possibly MD100, if that is actually a catalogue number. I don't think it is. And it's by Sukaniko. It's standard water-based dye ink, and I think these are a really nice ink because you can get them in packs, and I'll put the packs down below. You can get the packs pretty cheaply for like £20. You can get 20 colours, which is really great value, and they're really high quality. I don't really fault them, but they're not so great with your photopolymer stamps. They don't do quite so well with those, but there are tips and tricks, and people like Jen Maguire and Christina Werner, and I'll link to them in the description again. They've got some tips and tricks that help get certain dye-based inks, because this is a very runny dye, to work well with those types of stamps. Anyway, I've deliberately stamped it in yellow because I want a really, really pale, sorry, the sun is doing stuff outside and going behind things, and that's why we're getting slightly odd lighting. The reason that I wanted to use yellow is because I want a kind of no line effect when I've finished it, or at least very little line. So I thought I'd use one of the palest colours that I've got, very simply. Okay, I've swatched out some of the colours because the colour chart is so shit that I thought it was best to do some of my own swatches. There's a gold and silver in there, which I thought was quite interesting, and they do actually have a metallic sheen. It's not very strong, but it is there. The yellows are reasonable. There's 3 different ochres. There's ochre, light ochre, and burnt ochre, which are very distinctly different from one another. Yellow and chrome yellow are different from one another, and these are not the only yellows. There's also a lemon yellow, and then it goes into orange and tangerine before you get to the reds. There are also sort of earth yellows, like obviously the ochres that I've mentioned. You then go into the greens, which for some reason include mustard. Mustard in this series sits between lime green and ochre, so it's kind of slightly green, but it's very much in the ochre kind of family of colours. The Viridian is not a bad Viridian. I mean, I think that looks like hydrated chromic oxide to me. You've got a standard boring green there. You've got some interesting ones that are very samey. Lime, I think, is quite nice. The yellow green is quite similar but darker. Brilliant green is very similar to Viridian, but they are actually different. The peppermint, again, is similar but definitely different. And the grass as well. The reds are a little bit samey. There's red, geranium red, coral red, carmine. Oops, Vermilion and Scarlet, and they're not... Actually, the camera picks it up better than the eye. Actually, they are... Sorry, let me focus that. The camera picks it up a little bit better than the eye. They are actually slightly different, but they do look on the page initially quite similar. I've done some blending trials just to see how they blend, and rather than using Gamsol or a similar product in a bottle, which I know many people don't like using, I know a lot of people are worried about it for some reason. Really, Gamsol is not something you need to be too worried about. The fact that it's odorless, it is an odorless mineral spirit. The odorlessness is due to low volatility, and something of low volatility is not something that your lungs are going to kind of take up and do things with. So whilst you can buy it, you can get it quite easily under a number of different names, and I'll link to some of those in the description. What I use really is a convenience product that is ridiculously overpriced, but I just like it. So rather than doing what you would normally do, which is you would take a stump and you would dip it in Gamsol and you would use that to blend, what I use are these blending pens by Derwent, which are designed for coloured pencils. You can use them with oil pastels, you can use them with chalk pastels, and you get really nice effects. They come as a pack of 2. You get a fine one and a fat one, and I'll show you what the nibs are like, because I really like these. I might do a separate video just on these, but I think they're pretty good. So the fine one's kind of felt tip sort of size, and the nib of that one is orange when you buy it, but the blending component is perfectly okay. This one is a little bit red because I've just used it, but it's a white fibre tip, the fat one. They are a odorless mineral spirit blending solution, so they're not like the Copic or Pro Marker blenders, which are just isopropanol. These are specifically for these waxy compounds. So first of all, this is just a triangle coloured in with 543, which is grass green. I just coloured that in just to do a plain one, and you can see that's a reasonable coating. It does take the tooth of the paper pretty well. And then I did one where I blended it with Gamsol, admittedly not very well, and that's using the fat one of the Derwent Blender Pens to achieve that. And that does soften really quite nicely and get rid of a lot of the white. I then did a gradient blend where I went from 505 chrome yellow on one end to 511 geranium red on the other, and I overlapped them by a fair amount just here in the middle. And then what I did is started at this end with the fat blending pen, worked all the way to this end, and then I went back, which is why this end is no longer yellow, but it would have stayed yellow had I not done that. That was kind of an error really of judgment on my part. I should have stopped a bit sooner, but it's blended them pretty well. It's mixed the colours kind of nicely, and I'm not disappointed with that. So these do absolutely blend using those kinds of product. You could use baby oil on a stump. I use baby oil on a stump myself. A trick, especially if you're in the UK at the moment, things like Boots the Chemist at this time of year always have 3 for 2 on travel size products, and baby oil is always amongst them. So buy mini travel size baby oil for your craft room. That bottle will last you ages, and I'll do another video. Actually, when I review these, I'll compare them with baby oil. I'll do a separate review. What I want to do is see if this Memento ink is going to blend and bleed with these, and then I'll actually start colouring. Okay, sorry about the lighting still, but I have coloured that in and I've done some blending with it as well. I'm just going to try and give myself something to focus on a bit better here. So obviously you can still see the yellow showing through, and what I'm going to do is take my waterproof black marker and I'm going to draw in all lines where I want them. I did this with 8 colours. I did the stems, and so I did them in 2 colours, 2 shades of brown, which in the end were light ochre and burnt ochre. I did the leaves in 3 shades of green, kind of a light one and a mid-tone, and then I put some shadow in, and then I blended them, and yeah, it's not perfect, but it will do. Which were brilliant green and grass green and yellow green. Yeah, this is not a work of art, guys. This is a sketch for the sake of reviewing a product. So the greens that I used, I've just obviously mentioned, and then the reds and pinks that I used, actually I used more pink than red to be honest, which wasn't my intention. I was intending to do these in lovely, lovely gothic red like the roses I have or had in my garden until they all died off about a week ago at the end of their season. I used carmine and salmon and rose because I kind of felt I had to do those. Again, nothing special. They are blended. The blending isn't great, actually, I have to say. One of those colours, which I think was carmine, doesn't seem to blend too well. I did that with the finer of the two Derwent blending pens, and that doesn't seem to have blended as well as when I did that little demonstration up there to test them out, which used the thicker one. So let's get that thicker one out and see if I can get some better blending going on. Obviously I'm not doing it the way I did it before where I followed all the areas. I do think you should follow the shape. Oops, wasn't even showing you the right shape. I do think you should follow the shape. So if it's a round shape and you're blending inwards to go in circles. I actually think that the fatter one of these blends a lot better than the thin one. Don't know why that is. I'll write to Derwent, see if I can get an answer on that. But there we go. So what is my verdict on this set? They are incredibly good value at the price I paid for them. I paid about £10 or not much more for a set of 72 reasonably good quality pencils that blend pretty well. They have kept their points, and I was pretty rough with them when I did these swatches as I wanted to see what they would do. They kept their points really well. I have seen some reviewers on Amazon say that they break really easily. To be honest, my own experience of pencils is they break for two reasons. One is they got dropped at some point during shipping. I did confess to the assembled brethren of Lindsay the Frugal Crafter's live chat the other day that this is not my real accent, that I use what I call my conference voice, which is a much more neutral English that I use when I'm presenting at conferences where half the audience is not native English speakers, because I find it makes it easier for them to understand. And I just slipped back when I said shipping in my West Midlands original accent. Sorry about that. So these pencils advertise on the box soft break resistant leads. I did find they were quite soft. They're not really hard to paint with or draw with, sorry, colour with. They work pretty well for that. And yeah, so the main reasons why that would ever happen is if a pencil gets dropped during shipment or if you drop it off your desk, it lands on a hard surface. The lead will break in multiple places down the shaft, so as you sharpen it, you'll find it keeps breaking repeatedly because it's already got breaks. The other reason is not sharpening your pencils in the correct way, and I'm going to do a quick tip video after this to show you how you should sharpen an artist grade pencil to avoid that issue of the lead just repeatedly breaking. So on the whole, I think at the price I paid of around £10, these are really good. They're not artist quality. I'm not expecting anything that's going to last, but if you do adult colouring books and you want something that's going to be good enough for those, or good enough for colouring in, for cards, I think these are more than good enough. If you're paying more than about £15, £20, so £15 is something like $20 at the moment. If you're paying much more than that, I really wouldn't. I would shop around and try and get another brand. And you can get really good artist quality pencils like Derwent and Prismacolor and similar brands at really good prices in the sales in the UK or in the US. If you've got a coupon, as you guys have coupons and we don't, you can get fantastic discounts on those. So really weigh it up. Is this actually the cheapest option? The range of colours, I have to say, is fantastic. I'll pull up that. Try. I got some masking tape stuck to it. I'll pull up that terrible colour chart again, but to just reinforce what you get, there's a white, a sand, not many yellows. That's a downside. There's a few different oranges. Then you move into the reds, the pinks, and then you go into these pointless flesh colours they always seem to give you. Cream yellow I didn't try out, but I think it's a variation of that. And then you go into these pinky reds. These pinks and purples are really beautiful actually, and the blues are as well. There are some really good range of colours in there, and I will do a colour chart for these, a proper colour chart for these, and put it on my blog so that you can see what they really look like, because I think that that will help people make their decision, because this colour chart is shit, to be honest. These do not look like the real colours. So I will swatch out all 72 colours so that you don't have to, and I'll also make I'll make available to you something in my download section so that you can print that out and make your own colour charts if you do choose to buy these, as I think those things are really useful and I've noticed a lot of people make them. The greens, you've got a lot of greens here. There's a really wide selection of greens. The browns are nice. You've got some good different reddish browns. Maroon, God knows why that's there, it's a purple. And Van Dyke brown. You've got a silvery grey, a light grey, warm grey, blue grey, dark grey, slate grey. That's a lot of different greys. And you've got gold and silver, which are always nice. And these do have a little bit of metallic in them, albeit not much. They claim they're non-toxic. They claim to obey all sorts of safety obligations. But I'll put a link through to UK Amazon and US Amazon if they're available there, so you can buy them if you want to. And even if you don't want to, go through to the UK one, because it's got some hilarious Chinglish on it. It's clearly been put together by someone whose English isn't great, and it says they're a good gift for holidays, including a holiday I didn't know we had, which is called Hallowmas, which I'm assuming is a mixture of Halloween and Christmas or something like that. Anyway, I thought it was funny, but that's my warped sense of humour. Thank you very much and good evening.